In Google Sheets, sometimes you receive data that's all stacked up on top of itself or running all the way along a single row. And it can be hard to display, or it just looks quite unsightly. As you can see here in our example, we've got a list of characters and actors for the rookie here. The name, badge ID, and actor, and they've all been stacked on top of themselves. And here we've unstacked those into something more readable. Likewise, we have a column of the same amount of data, and now it's been unstacked into something much more readable. Alternatively, you might have to stack a bunch of data into a single column or a single row to then export for a particular type of software. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to stack and unstack data in Google Sheets with 4 simple functions. Let's head back to our Unstack over here and get started. To play along, you can grab a copy of the starter sheet in the link in the description below. Alright, so to unstack our column, all we need to do is call the WRAPROWS function here. And the WRAPROW takes 2 parameters and 1 additional optional parameter. And the first parameter is the range. And this is going to be this column here. So I'm going to select that column now. And then it's going to ask us for the wrap count. So what does that mean? It's saying after how many columns do we want to wrap this around and then start again at the next row. So for us, we've got name, badge, and actor as our 3 title columns. So we're going to say 3 here. So for now, let's just close this and see what happens. Cool. So more often than not, 99% of the time, this is all you're going to need. Okay, so we noticed that there was a third optional argument here called pad width, and that is how we want to pad anything extra we have. If it's not divisible by our wrap count, then do we want to add NA for not applicable, or do we want to leave it blank, or do we want to add another value in there? Let's just leave it blank for the time being and see what happens. Let's extend our range out to 1 extra spot here to make it A13, and we'll tab. And you can see A13 is empty now, and we've got a bunch of NAs. Just so you can see what's going on, we might say Bert here, oh Bertie boy. And we've still got NA here, but we might not like NA because it gives us that little error thing that might be a bit irritating for us. So let's go ahead and change that. And we can change what we want to pad it with. We might just want to pad it with nothing, in which case we could add an empty string or just leave it blank like this. Alternatively, we might want to add something else. We could say nil, for example, and nil will appear here. Okay, we've got that one under control. We've got WRAPROWS here. You can probably guess what we're going to do here to unstack a single row of columns here. So let's move very quickly to resolve that one. You can even jump ahead and give it a try and see how you end up. So here we're going to say WRAPCOLS. And what's our range? Well, it's going to be this A15 through to L15. And this one we've got a wrap count now. So this is a little bit strange. So across we could say, is it going to be 4 or 3 across? If I say 3 across, let's see what happens here. 3, and I'll hit, I'll close the parenthesis. And now you can see we've got name, badge ID, actor, and we've got John Nolan, Lucy Chan, Jack West, etc. Now, you might have thought that the wrap columns would have transformed into something like this, but what you will have to do if you wanted something from a list of a single column and wrap it around to look like this is to transpose it first. So let's just quickly handle for that over to the side here so you can see what's going on. So if I said WRAPROWS again, and this time I grab the range, but before we grab the range, we're going to type in transpose. And transpose is going to make it go from running as a row and then converting it into a column. Then our wrap count is going to be 3, and we'll close that off now. You can see now that we've put everything in the order that looks the same as up here. Let's restack our data. Over here I've got a range of columns and rows from A1 all the way down to B7. And I've just done some conditional formatting so you can highlight anything that's in a column 2 and anything that is in a column 1. Now, the traditional approach to stacking a range in Google Sheets is to use the flatten method. So let me show you here. So here we can type in equals flatten, and flatten says flatten values into a single column. Yes, that's exactly what we want. So we can grab our range here, and we could even grab another range and add it in, but we don't have one for today. and we'll close our parenthesis, and there we go, it's flattened. Now that works out perfectly fine, but what if we want to display all the columns in column A first and then all the columns in column B first? Fortunately for us, we have a new function that can help us out with that. So we can use the TOCOL function here, and this will give us a array or range. So this is exactly like the flatten method here. If I select this range here and I close it, then it's going to look identical to the column E result here. Now, TOCOLs has additional optional parameters as well. So let's try that again. We'll say TOCOL, and we'll grab this range again, and we'll hit comma this time, and we can use ignore here, which we'll go into in a moment. So we're going to hit comma just one more time just to ignore that one, and then we can say our scan by, and that says whether the array should be scanned by column, true, so it scans each column at each time, or false if it's setting as the default. So it should be A1, then B1, then A2, then B2. So here we're going to say scan by column. Well, yes, true. Let's close that. Now we are generating our single list or stacking our list one column at a time. So what's with that middle argument? Let's copy and paste this over here, hit tab and go into cell I1 and hit Control V to paste. So this one says ignore. So the control to ignore blank errors here is set 0 to default, is to keep all values, or 1 to ignore blanks, or 2 to ignore errors. So if we made an error in here, it would ignore the errors in our range. So let's see how that handles. Okay, so what happens if I delete this here? Now, if I type in my ignore type to 1 here, which says to ignore blanks, then we should have one less item in our stack. And as you can see, that item in the stack has been removed. So I can delete this item as well, and that will be removed also. Now, what happens if I put in an error, for example, here too? Let's create an error here. We'll go equals 1 divided by 0, which is going to generate an error because we can't divide by 0. That still appears. Now, perhaps we want to keep the blanks. So we could go up here, and the second argument says that we can ignore the errors but keep the blanks. So we can hit 2 here. So the blanks remain, so this blank one remains, but the error is gone now. But what about if we want both errors and blanks to go? We can use 3 as well here. And now both errors and blanks have gone. Cool. So likewise, let's just tidy this up and make it pretty again. So just to be the completionist, we can also do the same thing down the bottom here. So in our final example, all we are doing is converting this range to a row here, a single row. So how do we do it? All we need to go is say to row instead of 2 columns, select our range, close a parenthesis, and it's done. Likewise, if we want to stack both columns, we can handle that with the optional third argument. If we say 2 rows, or 2 row I should say, and we can select our range, and then we'll leave that center one out, that center optional argument out, and we'll say scan by column, true. Now we'll have column 1 first and then column 2 first. So that's it for stacking and unstacking ranges in Google Sheets. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more tutorials like this, subscribe. Until next time.